Shalom, family. 1 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 3. But I want you to know that the head of every man is Messiah, and the head of woman is the man. Do you hear that, daughters of Zion, ladies? The head of man is Messiah, whom they call Christ, and the head of woman is the man, and the head of Messiah is Yahuwah. That is the order. Abba Yahuwah is not the head of woman. Remember in the Garden of Eden when Adam and Eve sinned, and it says the Most High Yahuwah walked in the midst of the garden, and he said, Adam, where art thou? And Adam hid himself. Who was the first one to initiate sin? It's not finger pointing. It was Kawa, or Eve, who was talking with the so-called serpent. And that's how sin entered into the world. But notice, when the Most High came into the garden, he never addressed Kawa or Kua or Eve directly. He went straight to Adam and asked Adam, what hast thou done? Who told you that thou was naked? Abba Yahuwah has headship, structure, and order. So he held Adam responsible for what his wife Eve had done, because man is the head of woman. I have a little something I would like to share with you all, and I will be back with you shortly. Fair use.
Wifeys, let me tell you about a wife that puts her children before her husband, a wife that prioritizes her children before her husband. Let me tell you about that kind of home. That home is a home that does not have order. That home is a dysfunctional home. It can never be functional, because God has put out a structure, has laid out a pattern of how the order of the home should be like. We see in the book of Genesis, God is talking about male, female, and he said multiply and be fruitful. God, we see when we read the book of Genesis, we can see that God spoke about Adam, Eve, and then there was the children. That is the order that God has put in place, and there's a reason why God has structured things to be like that. You see, the moment your child comes in between you and your husband, the moment your child becomes before your husband, there is a disorder in that family. It's very much normal for us as women to want to put our children first, to want to nurture our children. But just because it looks or seems like a good thing to do does not make it a right thing to do. Listen, those children are going to grow up one day. Those children are going to leave you one day. Those children are going to have their own wives and husbands one day, and you are going to be left with a stranger in the house because you have allowed your marriage to be all about children. Some couples don't know how to relate outside the children, especially when the kids are still young. They don't know how to relate outside of that. Do not camp on the stage of nurturing your child to a point that you neglect your husband. Yo, guys, some wives even go as far as reprimanding the father in front of the child, as to don't talk to the child like that in front of the child. You are planting a seed on that child to disrespect his father. That is why when the father says no to the child looks at you as the mother, because they want you to say something that will favor them. We always say we want to give our children the best things that we never had. And most of the time when we say that, we refer to materialistic things. The best gift that you can ever give your child as a mother and as a wife is the respect that they see you give their dad. It's building your home.
Look at this, family. The wrong order. Satan becomes the head. It's man over his wife as Messiah is over man, as Abba Yahuwah is over Messiah. But this society here turns everything upside down and places Satan above the wife, and the wife and the children above the husband. When you see this type of structure, the whole household is in total disorder, and the will of Yahuwah is unfulfilled. This is demonic. A wife-led home or children-led home, as mentioned in the book of Isaiah, is evil. As for my people, children are their oppressors, and women rule over them. O my people, they which lead thee or lead you cause you to err. There's a crisis going on in America. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, 24 million children in America, 1 out of 3, live without their biological dad in the home. Consequently, there is a father factor in nearly all of societal issues facing America today. Family, did you know the overwhelming majority of men that are incarcerated come from fatherless homes? There's a pandemic or plandemic of fatherless homes in America. Not only America, but the world. This is the pink elephant in the room that most pastors and society are not willing to address, at least openly, that is.
Home. He's a man when he protects his family. He's a man when he takes responsibility for what goes on about other people's lives. That's what being a man is. When I was younger, like 25 years ago, and my husband would come home and I would just carpet bomb him with complaints. Just carpet bomb him. Everything, you know what I mean? And one day my mother said, one day he's going to stop coming home. Because that door is an entry to hell for him. What you doing? You got to know what's important and know what you need to be angry about. Because the size of the things that you get angry about are an indication of your size. Small people get upset about small things. He loves you, don't mess it up. That's what I'm trying to say to you. Did I do all right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
When preaching headship, structure, and order, especially inside the church or circe, C-I-R-C-E, most so-called Christian pastors never address this issue here. Wives, if you have a commandment-keeping husband that fears Yahuwah, love him, respect him, and put him first. The husband is the head of the wife, as Yahushua is the head of the ecclesia. Wives should put their husbands first. Now, I would not tell any or instruct any daughter of Zion or woman to follow anyone to Sheol. But if you have a commandment-keeping husband that fears Yahuwah and loves Yahuwah, and he's striving with all his heart and soul to be found pleasing in the sight of Yahuwah, you should follow that man and not be contentious with him. Ephesians 5, verse 21. Honor Messiah or Christ and put others first. A wife should put her husband first, not children, her husband, as she does Yahuwah. A husband is the head of his wife, as Messiah is head and savior of the ecclesia, which they call the church, which is his own body. Wives should always put their husbands first, as the ecclesia puts Christ first. Ecclesia was the original word in the Greek manuscripts instead of church, and it means assembly of Israelites. Verse 25, a husband should love his wife as much as Christ or Messiah loved the ecclesia and gave his life for it. Husbands, you are not to mistreat your wives. He made the ecclesia or church, kwadosh, as they say, holy, by the power of his word, and he made it pure by washing it with water. Messiah or Christ did this so he would have a glorious and kwadosh ecclesia without faults or spots or wrinkles or any flaws. Wives, put your husbands first, and husbands, always treat and love your wives with tenderness and kindness. Do not mistreat them. Leaders 3. If you are a wife, you must put your husband first. Even if he opposes our message, you will win him over by what you do. No one else will have to say anything to him because he will see how you honor Yahuwah, not God, and live a pure life. Don't depend on things like fancy hairdos or gold jewelry or expensive clothes to make you look beautiful. Be beautiful in your heart by being gentle and quiet. Daughters of Zion, ladies, you should not be contentious and argumentative with your husbands. According to the book of Sirach, you are supposed to be a pillar of rest unto him. It says, be beautiful in your heart by being gentle and quiet. This kind of beauty will last, and Yahuwah considers it very special. Long ago, those women who worship Yahuwah and put their hope in him made themselves beautiful by putting their husbands first. For example, Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him master. King James says, Lord, you are her true children if you do right and don't let anything frighten you. Verse 7, if you are a husband, you should be thoughtful of your wife. Treat her with honor. Don't mistreat your wives, men. Love and honor them. Care for them. Treat her with honor because she isn't as strong as you are.
Woman should understand that if you are to marry, your husband is your first child, then your children are your second child, because every man is a child. What they want is pets. The way you can pet a man is the way you can pet your child.
Husbands, always love your wives. Be gentle and kind with them. Do not mistreat them. Do not disrespect them. Every woman on planet Earth is someone's daughter. And we as men would never want anyone to mistreat any of our female family members. So we as men should not do it to our wives or these adult women out here. Always be loving and kind with the daughters of Zion, men. Don't mistreat them. Love them and treat them with tenderness and kindness. To the parents with adult children, please go listen at this on YouTube. It has music playing in the background, and I didn't want to chance it, but please go listen at this. It's extremely powerful, from Ricky Smiley, dealing with entitled adult or grown children.
Up to my face. Some of y'all let your kids ruin your marriage. You done let your biological kids ruin your marriage, and you definitely let the stepkids ruin your marriage.
You are not ready to brag about your marriage until you survive about 40 years. You walk around and say, we've been married for 3 years, praise the Lord. 3? Welcome to the beginning. And people don't understand. The difficulties in the marriage comes to fuse you, not to confuse you. I want to give an example. Can you two help me, please? This don't mean nothing, okay? Okay, I want you to face each other. Just face each other, okay? I want to share what happens in relationships, okay? Here's a husband and a wife by faith. And, okay, so they meet each other and they get married. Now, they're looking at each other, they're face to face. That's the problem in marriage, you're face to face. That's the problem. Because when the world's pressure hit her, who's she looking at? So when she feels the pressure, bam, she blames it on what she's looking at. The pressure that will hit him, bam, bills, bam, mortgage payment. Who's he looking at? Her. You see? Whatever you're looking at takes the blame. You can get this when I'm leaving. This is not the way you're supposed to be married. Because this doesn't fuse you, it confuses. It creates problems. So he starts saying to her, if I didn't marry you, wouldn't have all these bills. And she said to him, if you didn't give me them children, you wouldn't have to buy flour pop. Milk. In other words, they start blaming and attacking the very person they love. Turn around, back to back. That's the way you're supposed to be married. Now, let me give you a revelation you will never forget. In the Bible, in the manual, the Bible says that you are supposed to be protected by the armor of God. You have the helmet of salvation, you get the shield, the breastplate of righteousness, you got the loincloth of truth, and you got the shoe of the gospel, you got a shield in your hand, and you got a sword. Now, how am I going to win if I attack you? The only place, according to the Bible, where there's no protection is your back. The devil loves to come against you and hit you in the back. But look at them. When he attacks the marriage, if he comes against the guy can fight him. And guess what the Bible says the guy's looking at? He's looking at the devil. So he doesn't blame his wife about the fight. He blames the guy he's looking at. He said, this is the devil trying to destroy my home. And so he attacks the devil. We keep attacking the very person we love. So the devil attacks her, and she got weapons, and she says, devil, you leave my husband alone, leave my kids, and she fights the right person. And the more he pushes her and pushes her and pushes him, they keep fusing and fusing until they become one. And when the devil slaps her, he slaps him back. You touch her, you touch me. You touch him, you touch me. In other words, they become so one that any attack is against both of them. That's marriage. So the devil sends some little demons, and they trying to get in between. Here, see, it might be an old girlfriend, such a thing. They keep pushing, and now you're exposed. He destroys you. You become a diamond. Marriage is not about what you achieved. It's about what you survived. could achieve all kind of great stuff and still lose your marriage. Big business, no home. A lot of money, no wife, no husband. Big promotion, no children. They're in the base house and drugs. What are we doing? And so God says, I will make you the two one. The two shall become one. When I try to get to his wife, I gotta go through him. When I try to get to her husband, I have to go through her. So suddenly, the beautiful thing is, she starts fighting for him. And he starts fighting not against, but for her. Do you fight for your wife? Do you fight for your husband? Do you defend him?
1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 28. Are you unmarried? Do not seek a wife. But if you do marry, you have not sinned in doing so. This is making reference to the man. And if a virgin, which is the woman, marries, she has not sinned in doing so. Why did it say, and if a virgin marries, she has not sinned? Because Apostle Paul is making reference to what we read in the book of Devarim or Deuteronomy chapter 22, verses 13 through 21. And if a virgin marries, she has not sinned in doing so. Yet those, is speaking to the man and woman now, yet those who marry will have troubles, special challenges in this life. And Apostle Paul continues on saying, and I am trying to spare you that. So in marriages, issues are going to arise, but you should not let these issues dismantle your marriage. You don't throw in the towel, you work it out. And do not let the sun go down on your wrath. Love and forgive one another. And ladies, there is no such thing as divorce. 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 39. Forgive one another. Love one another.
Generation of real wives are women between the ages of roughly 70 to 90. I'm not saying there aren't real wives after that. There totally were. But let's just say women between the ages of 70 to 90, let's say 70% were real wives. Then we go down to the women between the ages of 40 to 60. Now 40% are real wives. Then we go to the women under the age of 40. Maybe 20% are real wives. Now, what's a real wife? A real wife is a woman that submits to, serves, and obeys her husband, number one. A real wife does not get divorced. She doesn't believe in it, and she will make the relationship work at all costs, even at the expense of herself. What is important to a real wife is the family. She does not spend money on Botox, on the latest fashion trends. The only thing she cares about is looking good for her husband. She's not posting on social media. She's not seeking validation and attention from other men. That is a real wife. The last generation of real wives.
Marriages are a covenant. Matthew chapter 12, verse 36. But I say to you that every idle word that men and you women speak, they will give an account for on the day of judgment. For by your words you will be justified, and by your words you will be condemned. Meditate and think deeply on that, family. When husbands and wives get together, I love you, we're going to stay together for life. I've never loved anyone like you. That's in the beginning. Tribulations and things come about, and they don't keep their word. But the words that you uttered out of your mouths when you first got together, was heard in the ears of the Creator. Food for thought.
A lot of people now wouldn't have made it through what you guys made it through. I hear a lot of people even say, don't be in a relationship where you're not happy. That's not something that you should do. And to some extent, it is a thin line between fighting for your marriage and just being unhappy, right? So when you're going through that level of unhappiness, and even some sense that level of misery, what's going on in your mind? How do you stay focused on working through this and not just calling it quits?
I called my mother, and I was regaling her with all of his sins, and there were many. And she said, I'm going to tell you what to do. I told you what to do last time. I told you what to do the time before that. I'm going to tell you one last time. But if you don't do it, don't call me no more, because you can't stay mad and stay married. And I ain't taking every one of these phone calls again. Are you going to do what I tell you to do? Yes, ma'am. This is what you need to do. You need to change. And I said, but he's wrong. He didn't want to go to where I wanted to go. I don't care. He's not going to change. You change. And then when you change, he'll have to change, because he's got a different check. And so I changed. I stopped. She said, don't get mad. Be serious. I understand, honey, but I'm not doing that. And that used to back me up. I understand, but I'm not doing that. And then started making decisions, and he was like, oh, this is the chick I married. The one who has, baby, we ought to do this. Yeah, baby, that's a good idea. He got his old wife back. And it took 18 months, but we did it. But if you're unhappy, most people are always pointing at their partner and saying what they're doing wrong. They're irrelevant. What you have to do is change in order to inspire change in them. And a lot of people don't want to do that because they feel like, if I'm right, how come I got to change? And you got to change because you ain't happy. That doesn't mean do what he says or do what she says. Change how you are conducting business. And you keep changing until you find something that works. Do everything that makes sense to you first. And if everything that makes sense to you don't work, try something don't make a lot of sense.
In closing, family, when we know better, we do better. Marriages are for life. Husbands, love your wives and treat them with tenderness and kindness. And wives, honor and respect your husband. For women, there is no such thing as divorce. Until next time, Elder O signing off. Like, share, and subscribe. Shalom.